Oh, I'm already recording. Whoops. Oh, there's a few minutes. Okay. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to tell you about the Pick My Book winner for September and what I thought about reading Not a Sound by Heather Gudenkauf. So Not a Sound is Amelia's story. She is a former nurse who unfortunately had to quit that profession when her and her patient were hit by a car one evening leaving the hospital. Her patient died instantly and Amelia was left without her hearing. She's deaf. She has a service dog named Stitch. So side note, immediately when the service dog came into play in this book, as soon as I found out there was a dog, there was just this overwhelming sense of dread. Like, oh God, please don't let this be a dog dying story. I can't handle a dog dying story. Rest assured, I'm going to go ahead and spoil it for you animal lovers. Stitch comes out okay. Amelia and Stitch have retreated to this cabin on a river. Not only did she lose her job, but her marriage disintegrated. She became an alcoholic when trying to deal with her new disability. So she's lost her husband and, as a result, her stepdaughter and a lot of her friends. One day, her and Stitch are spending some time on the river and they find a dead body. And the victim happens to be someone that Amelia knew. She was a former nurse, or she was also a nurse, and she was actually one of the people that tried to reach out and help Amelia after the accident. Amelia was cut off. She was not interested. She was humiliated. She was angry, depressed, so she doesn't have a lot of physical connections or interpersonal connections or relationships in the world now, with the exception of Jake. Jake is Amelia's brother's best friend. He is a police officer and he responds when Amelia finds the dead body. So what we have is a murder mystery. We've had a lot of those lately, a lot of murder mysteries with a bit of an amateur sleuth. Once Amelia finds the victim, she finds it very hard to stay out of everything that's happening. She just can't set it aside, and in a way it gives Amelia a purpose that she hasn't felt in a very long time. So Jake is the police officer who's actually responsible for finding out what happened to this woman. But he also happens to be the only person who Amelia still has sort of a connection with or an interpersonal relationship with. He's done a lot for her. He's taken her to AA meetings. He's forced her to enroll in ASL classes. He himself knows American Sign Language. So he's sort of been there with her every step of the way since her accident. So as I was saying, we have a murder mystery, yes, but we also have this cute little romantic side plot, which was probably one of my favorite parts of the book because I just adore Jake and everything that he does for Amelia. If you, as a reader, find yourself being empathetic to someone who's lost one of their senses suddenly, I think that you would really like this book. I will say that I was tricked by Heather Gudenkauf. I was not thinking it was the person that it was. And I'm looking back at it, kind of kicking myself because I feel like I should have known who the bad guy was. But I didn't. I was kind of surprised. I was very impressed by the way that Heather Gudenkauf handled the subject matter of this book, both for the hearing impaired aspects as well as the cancer. Amelia gets a job at a clinic, an infusion clinic for patients with cancer. And so there's a lot of really deep and heavy stuff in this book. I was really surprised by this book and I really liked it. And I wasn't surprised that I liked it. I mean, I was captivated by this book from the very beginning, and I don't know exactly what it was that did that. Yes, there was some intent on my part to read a book about a hearing impaired character and wanting to know how an author handled that. when without even the reader realizing it, so many audible clues are left inside of books to help immerse the reader into a story. And so I just wanted to see how Heather Gudenkauf managed to write without any mention of sound, and I wasn't disappointed. I was really impressed with the way that it was handled, the way that it was talked about responsibly and with knowledge. I didn't find out until later that Heather Gudenkauf herself has some hearing loss. I don't know if it's total or if it's partial, but it was mentioned in the afterword that this book was personal to her. She's dealt with cancer diagnosis and fighting cancer in a family member, as well as experiencing hearing loss herself. So I wasn't at all let down by any of that. But putting that aside, I think the reason I was captivated had absolutely nothing to do with what my original intentions were for maybe wanting to read this book. I read a Heather Gudenkauf novel earlier this year called Before She Was Found. And it was the story of a terrible attack on a 13-year-old girl and the mystery surrounding who could have done it. And it had a lot of chilling parts, and it was creepy. And for some reason that sort of became the things that I associated with Heather Gudenkauf. This book was completely different in tone and in content and in, it was just completely different than Before She Was Found. I was shocked at how different it was. So again, not disappointed, just really caught by surprise. Like I said, I liked this book immediately and didn't get bored with it, didn't get irritated with it, I say that. What you need to know is that sometimes there are a lot of books that, I'm not going to say technically bore me, but if I put a book down at a not great part, I struggle to pick it back up. That was not the case for Not a Sound. I mean, I started it and I wanted to devour it. I wanted to read the whole thing. I wanted to know what happened. I was emotionally connected to Amelia and Stitch, the service dog, and Jake from the beginning. It was almost instantaneous. And that's a weird thing for me to experience. I don't have anything in common with Amelia, but I think she just has a lot of relatable qualities. And I hope that translates to more readers than just myself. If I do have one criticism of this book, I would question the believability of the ending. It turns into sort of this chase. Amelia is being chased and Amelia's life is in danger by the person responsible for this crime we're trying to solve. And I don't think it gets ridiculous. I don't think it goes way too far, but I would question the believability of it. Not that it's not entertaining, because it is. It's absolutely entertaining. And you are sort of on the edge of your seat wanting to know what's going to happen, especially to Stitch. But it does seem a little bit unlikely, especially with the physical limitations that our main character has. To be wandering around the woods trying to evade a killer, it does border on a little bit unbelievable. But if that's, like I said, it's still entertaining. So if that's my only complaint, and not that it's really a complaint, it's just sort of a mild criticism, then yeah, for me, Before She Was Found was a good book. But again, it differed so greatly in tone from Not a Sound that I'm even more interested in Heather Gudenkauf now, having read Not a Sound. I don't think Before She Was Found is the best Heather Gudenkauf that there is. So far, Not a Sound is better. I don't know what else awaits me in my already purchased list of Heather Gudenkauf books, but this one was really good. Not to mention, I love this cover. It's one of my favorite covers that I own. It's 3-dimensional, so the words pop out a little bit, and it's got that really great shiny water, yeah. The inside flap does mention that this book introduces Heather Gudenkauf's most compelling heroine yet. And I do think that's true. I think that the biggest win for this novel is Amelia. A little bit flawed and easy to recognize the things that she's done wrong in life, or the paths that she's taken that didn't pay off very well for her. But the reader immediately recognizes Amelia's vulnerability. And I think it pulls something out of the reader that makes them want to root for her immediately, in spite of knowing what she's done or what she's thrown away in the last couple of years of her life. And I just think she's endearing to the reader while still being tough. She's not endearing to us because she's weak or pitiful. Deafness is one of the first disabilities. Blindness and deafness are two of the first disabilities that we are exposed to, or that we become aware of. And they're easy to understand. Somebody can't see or somebody can't hear. And so you end up contemplating blindness and deafness at a particularly young age. At least I did. You know, what would it be like to be blind? What would it be like to be deaf? I've been asking myself these questions, or questions similar, since I was pretty young. I think that deafness is one of those disabilities that everyone tries to empathize with at some point. What would it be like to not hear? I think that we all have wondered that, tested it, thought about it. There's a connection with deafness and or blindness that a lot of people make. So I think that's why a lot of people will be drawn to this book. A lot of people will like this book, not at all because of the plot, but because it just has this heroine that you are immediately rooting for, that you immediately connect with or feel something for. And it works, on top of being a really interesting thing to read. Interesting in that the lack of sound will play an integral part in the story, and ultimately add suspense and anxiety to your reading experience, because this woman is particularly vulnerable without the benefit of hearing. People can sneak up on her. If she's upstairs in her bedroom and somebody breaks in downstairs, how does she know unless her dog alerts her? We recognize that, and it makes for just a more thrilling book, a more interesting book, and one that you kind of emotionally connect with on some level, which is kind of unusual for a thriller. That just makes this a really successful book for Gudenkauf, I think, in my opinion. I'm really interested to know, though, from other people who've read Not a Sound, what you think. If what I'm saying is making sense, or if I'm just making things up to hear myself talk. But if you get what I'm saying, if you think that those things also played a part, please let me know in the comment section below. If you have any questions about Not a Sound, something that I may not have addressed, leave that for me too. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for voting for Not a Sound. I will see you all very soon.